to another edition of Political Update on Osbc Television. Smiling, we welcome you to month of June. Today is the 1st of June, and we welcome everybody to a new dawn and a new era in Nigeria, championed by this inauguration and swearing in of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the 29th of May. This morning on our program, we shall be taking a look at the inauguration speech as delivered by President Bola Tinubu to Nigerians and an extension to the entire world. I have in the studio two public affairs commentators, political commentators, social affairs commentators. Very close to me is Adon at the university here in Osun, Mr. Ademola Akim Aziz. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for having me.
And next to him is, he's fast becoming a media personality by himself, Comrade Fatai Tijani. Good morning.
A beautiful morning to you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being my guest this morning. So let's kick it off from here, Mr. Akim. And we are looking at the speech of President Bola Tinubu. I could recollect in 2015, everybody stayed glued to their television sets when former President Buhari was delivering his own address or speech. And one thing Nigerians could make out of it, and which made headlines across all newspapers, was this sentence by them:
I belong to everybody.
I belong to nobody. Now, we have so many to look at this morning from President Tinubu's speech. But let us start from what Nigeria is currently going through. Well, I will call it some pain that will eventually give birth to gains. But we need to make some endurances, we need to make some sacrifices. Removal of fuel subsidy. Did you see it coming or coming up in Tinubu's speech?
If anybody says he does not see it coming up in Tinubu's speech, perhaps the person has not been following the trend of events. To start with, the erstwhile government, the immediate past government of President Buhari, made it explicitly clear that there will be no inclusion of subsidy in the 2023 budget, and they saw through to that. They made sure it was not included, and the budget was accepted by the National Assembly and passed without the inclusion of the subsidy. So it's a no-brainer if anybody feels this new administration, especially in view of the fact that each of the top three presidential aspirants then, before we eventually have the presidents, each of them at different events, different fora, made it loud and clear to Nigerians that fuel subsidy must go. That it
they refer to it as a scam.
As a scam. All of them. All of the top three.
I could collect former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Labour Party President candidate Peter Obi, and even Showore
Omoyele, yes. All of them. The average Nigerian who has been observing things would know that it makes no sense to continue with fuel subsidy. Fuel subsidy is a very beautiful idea when it was brought on in the 70s by the regime of Yakubu Gowon. It was eventually made a policy thing by General Olusegun Obasanjo in 1977. It was meant to make life easy for Nigerians. As a oil-producing country, why should Nigerians pay the same as other countries that are not producing oil? So it's a very beautiful idea by the government. But over the years, marketers especially have taken it as a way to milk this country. Trillions of naira, billions of dollars are lost every year, all in the name of fuel subsidy. So it had to go, and it has to go, and it has already gone. Of course, Nigerians are experiencing excruciating pains, very, very serious pains. I felt it this morning while coming down here. I could see people standing by the bus stops, waiting for vehicles to come and convey them to their destinations, where they are going to make their daily livings, source of livelihood. But then, I believe this is a phase it will grow with time, especially if the government is well-meaning and they are able to put in place measures that will cushion the effect and that will make Nigerians see that the best was for us to do away with fuel subsidy, as the case is currently.
Yeah, so much thanks to you. I want to get something out of what Mr. Aziza said. Yes, I was born in Oshogo. I grew up in Oshogo. I could recollect in our primary school days, I can't actually point to a filling station owned by an individual. We had Unicorn then, we had Mobile,
AP.
we had AP, we have Total, and the rest of them.
A
Jeep, exactly. But I think the moment people saw that, oh, this we can benefit from
exactly.
it, people just started going into oil business. Now, Comrade Fatah, some Nigerians are saying even if President Tinubu would make the announcement that fuel subsidy will be removed, some are saying he should have come out with enlightenment, public enlightenment first, explain things to people, and that such a clause shouldn't have come up in his inaugural speech.
Well, I think the man, who is in government today has been there, and we know he has been part of activities as far as ruling of this country is concerned. And he came up with what he knew it's a reality we must face. My brother here just said that almost every top contender to the presidency of this nation already made up their mind to let it go. It was not budgeted for, and so the noise about it, I do not go into it, but that is just, it is normal. The second one is that I expected, the timing is of no essence to me, so sorry, but what I expected is that I expected a certain palliative. I don't know how or the formats, but I expected that something would have been done to alleviate it. Yes, it has been taken. Then what are the other things? Because it's very clear that people in government don't buy fuel. Everything around them is taken care of by the government, and the consideration for the ordinary person on the street should have been should to me be an uppermost
thing in their mind.
So as it is always not easy when decisions are taken, but I know with time, like he said, we would come over this. But I want to say also that the government made a pronouncement, and immediately the petrol stations shut off. And the question will be, the ones you have in there,
the tanks,
were they taken during the period of subsidy removal? No. And so most times we tend to be interested in blaming people in government. And when you look around us, are we any good? Are we any better? The people in government, are they not part of us? What have we done to even make it people see us differently from the people in government? And so I saw a price tag on social media. I don't know how true it is, but if it is the truth, 500 naira per liter is on the high side. And so if the government listens to us, if we buy it 180, 190, 215, 2 at least let it at 300 naira, it will still, one can measure up to. But from 1 something to 500 is on the high side, if you ask me.
Thank you so very much. There are certain things too we have to let our viewers understand. The government pays about 505 naira on a liter of fuel as subsidy, and Nigerians consume as much as 100 million liters of oil per day, per day, which translates to 40.5 billion naira per day and 11.2 trillion naira in a month. going into pocket of a few Nigerians, whom we can conveniently refer to as oligarchs. So if you get all these explanations right, many people will not blame the federal government. We are not even talking about Tinubu, but the federal government for removing the subsidy. But I think, well, you as comrades, he as a don, I as a media man, we have a lot to explain to people about this thing. And I agree with you. From 180, 190 to 500 is on the high side. It could have been first maybe to 250 or 300. But some are saying, okay, let us endure it for a few weeks, a few months. Perhaps the price will stabilize and come.
Probably looking in the direction of Dangote refinery.
Well,
if it comes into operation, probably it will also give
exactly.
prices.
Mr. Aziz Hakim, will you still agree with some people saying the government should build refineries? Or will you say, well, let's leave that aspect to rich Nigerians who can't afford to build one?
Already, recently, just last week, on Monday, Dangote refinery was launched to produce 650 barrels of petroleum products per day. In a few months' time, another one by Boa Industry will be commissioned in Akwa Ibom to produce more than 200,000 barrels per day. Of course, we have 4 other refineries that belong to the government, scattered across the country. 3 of them in the south, 1 in the north. And they have been coming on and off for the past 20 years.
If not more than that.
If not more than that. I am of the opinion that if Dangote refinery functions at its optimal capacity, if it is joined by Boa, that's close to 900,000 barrels per day. I don't think we would need any. We consume like 100,000.
100 million
liters per day.
Not barrel alone.
Not barrels.
So to take care of
you know the number of liters you get from a barrel. It will take care sufficiently of our needs. But the problem is actually not with the production or how we get it or how it is produced. It is actually the insincerity of the key players in the distribution chain of our petroleum products. There is another fact that is coming out now that more often than not, the marketers actually import more than they are expected to import for the government. And they actually get the excess, the subsidy for the excess they have imported without the government prompting them to do that. The other sad thing about it is that when they import these products, they claim they want to take it to the various village stations across the country. Some of them find their ways outside the country. Niger, Benin Republic, Cameroon, Chad. These are beneficiary countries at the expense of Nigerians. At the end of the day, there is a shortage in Nigeria because what we actually budgeted and planned to use per day or per week or per month, more than half of it has been taken out of the country. And Nigerians are suffering for that. It is because the government already paid some subsidy on this, and these people have the luxury of taking it anywhere on their own. There is no monitoring, adequate monitoring. There is monitoring, but it is not adequate. That is why they are able to do all of this. A stop to fuel subsidy payments will seriously curb this. And I believe the coming up of Dangote, and by the time Dangote stabilizes in a few years, I believe the government can begin to look at how to do turnaround maintenance on our existing. We don't need any more refineries, in my opinion. We have 4 standard refineries. Let us refurbish them, and what it requires is the sincerity of purpose by any government. I know the Jonathan administration spent trillions to refurbish them. Whatever we want to put into fuel subsidy, let us put it into refurbishing our refineries. Use the products that are refined at home, rather than we take them. We produce fuel, the crude is produced in Nigeria, we now take it to Europe or other parts of the world, refine them, we now have to buy. That is why the price is that much. By the time we refine at home, it doesn't mean we won't pay so much, but we won't pay as much as 400 or whatever the amount we are currently being made to pay.
Thank you very much. Now, let us look at this paragraph from President Tinubu's speech. As citizens, we declare as one unified people, devoted to one unified national cause, that as long as this world exists, Nigeria shall exist. As long as the world exists, Nigeria shall exist. Comrade Fatai Tijani, is President Tinubu not talking in the direction of those calling for dismemberment of the nation?
Yeah,
the IPOP,
I think it's
Boko Haram,
it's an encouraging
Yoruba nation.
It's an encouraging statement, and it's a unified statement. It's a statement that it's a very positive one, because we don't have businesses discussing such. We know what is happening in Sudan now. They seceded, and today they are at war, and a lot of lives have been lost. We know how people were talking about the government not going to bring in our citizens and etc. And so people know the beginning of things. For example, let us look at the Yoruba nation thing. If you get a Yoruba nation, would the Lagos state person not be interested in taking over as a president?
Naturally.
If a Lagos person takes over, would the Osun person be looking? Is it possible for the person to keep quiet? What will the Ondo person be doing? What will the Ogun person be doing? And so the leadership crisis will start from there.
Because the people.
If the Oyo state will not keep quiet.
Believe they are the leader.
So if eventually such happens, we will have much more problem than we're having at hand now. Now, when I look at our brothers from the east, I look at them as people who are bereaved of knowledge of international history, wherever it has happened. What is happening between Ukraine and Russia? It is not because of secession. We didn't want to leave you. You left by force, and we do not want you to go in tune with another organization apart from the one we have with you, because we can still consume you, and that is what the man is doing. Putin is consuming them. So we do not. It's as simple as it is. So when I look at the whole trend of Yoruba nation, especially, I'm not bothered about what is happening elsewhere, but the Yoruba nation, since the beginning, I thank God, our erudite professor has decided to step back, because he sees it as people. Majority of the younger element came on and they were making money online and etc. And to the detriment of those people that, if anything happens tomorrow, Baba will be invited. And if a whole professor is sitting somewhere and the younger element are questioning his integrity, that Baba, you knew they were doing all these things, why were you part of them? And so because he saw it and it became a road. Look at the picture, the gory picture that came out of Oyo State. They went to take over a radio station. They wore a t-shirt bearing Yoruba Nation police, Yoruba Nation army, and etc. And they said a lady who has been dismembered decided to hold on to some people. She stays abroad and sponsoring those who cannot think in Nigeria to put their lives on the street, and those guys are going on life imprisonment. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt.
And the woman is walking freely in the street of United States of America. And so, in a unified statement, it's one of the things that I'm listening to him say that gives me confidence that do not ever toy with the idea of secession, whether Biafra, whether Arewa, whether Yoruba Nation, and etc. It's good. And I also saw there was a signal that came shortly before President Buhari left. I saw Professor Soludo, some other eminent personalities from the East, asking that can be released. And what is the affair? We all had the voice where they said, burn Tinubu down, burn these companies down, burn everything, and they are afraid. But I know Tinubu has a larger heart and has interests of this nation and unification, because he's having 3 togas now. He has that of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, he has that of MP Abiola, and he has his own. And so he has to. He doesn't have a choice than to bring this country together. And for people to see that Yorubas actually has what it takes to rule, and that we are not given the fact that Chief Awolowo was not given the chance, Chief MK Abiola did not get there, that has gotten there, whatever they needed to do, that the program we was also part of. I don't know him, I don't know much about him during Chief Awolowo's struggle, but Chief MK Abiola, they started and ended it together, and so I know he knows it, and that's why he had this instead of saying hope, it was Hope 93, he said it's a renewed Hope 2023. So it's a unified statement, and every Nigerian would go into
it. Okay, Mr. Aziz, now still on the same paragraph, we are in the Fourth Republic, started by former President Olusegun Obasanjo. He too had problem with some Nigerians. He had problem. That was when we came up with the issue of resource control, resource allocation, derivation, and which was inherited very briefly by Yaradua. But Yaradua had to face Massop. He died all along, and then Jonathan inherited that. Then we had a problem of restructuring of Nigeria, which Jonathan survived for 6 years before Buhari came in. Then during Buhari's era, we have herdsmen and restructuring. Yes, and Bola Tinubu is a Nigerian. Today he is Nigeria's president. Don't you think some Nigerians will still come up with something that will form a kind of distraction for him in 4 years?
And that is the perfect word to use, distraction. They are always there. They've always been there. In fact, as far as the history of this country is concerned, we have always had elements agitating for more recognition, more resource control, and all of that. Starting with the likes of Isaac Jasper Adakaboro,
Niger
Delta, Kensaruba, all of them, they've always been there over time. Some of these, especially the older ones, did all these agitations genuinely, out of sincerity of purpose, not the way the majority of the ones we have today are doing it. The majority of the ones we have today, if not all of them, are actually doing it for self-aggrandizement, for personal gains, for some other things that cannot benefit the people they claim they are actually doing it on behalf of. So these distractions will always be there, and I'm very sure the government has the capacity to take care of this distraction. Yeah, there were those distractions during former President Buhari's regime, in the guise of IPOB, Yoruba Nation, and their figureheads, Nnamdi Kanu and then Sunday Igboho, were tamed, seriously tamed. I'm very sure the same template used then, or even a better template, to tame whoever tries to come up with such ideas, will equally be used to tame them. I believe in the capacity of the government to take care of all fake agitators. That's what I want to call them. Because in sincerity, there is no reason for anybody to call for a division of this country, in my view anyway. Because fine, we have our differences, we have so many issues bordering on non-inclusion of certain elements or certain parts of the country. Fine, but we can always talk about that and see how we move around that. It is not the way of a reasonable person to agitate in an aggressive manner for what you feel should benefit your people. If you feel your people need something, there is a better way to agitate for it, without necessarily causing chaos, without causing the civil war. When it was started, it was out of something like this. Where did it land us? What did we gain from it? Rather, we lost so much human, material things during the civil war, and it was to the detriment of this country. So any agitator asking for dismemberment of Nigeria is a joke, should not be taken serious, and should be seriously dealt with.
Well, thank you, Comrade Tijani. Our administration shall govern on your behalf, but never rule over you. We shall consult and dialogue, but never dictate. Now, a major problem we have in Nigeria is security. When Buhari came in, we were rejoicing that somebody who was part of the struggle that silenced my Tatsini of 1979-80, a retired army general for that matter. No, he was not going to have any problem dealing with his situation like that, but he lived with it for 8 years, and now we have a civilian president. Some people are now doubting the capacity that what a retired soldier was unable to do. But now we will consult and dialogue, but not do things. Do you see President Tinubu using dialogue and consultation to solve our security problems, or going the way of force?
Fortunately, I was living in Lagos throughout Tinubu's
administration. 1999-2007,
and I knew what he meant on ground, even though we are bad military administrators. Lagos, including our father from Osun, Abu Bamarua and Co. And he came in and mopped them up. And
effectively
created internal security network, and I believe that if he could achieve what he achieved as a governor in Lagos State, Nigeria, apart from everything, we pray to God to always assist him, but I think he has the capacity, he has what it takes. I want to say that there's one thing I've known about the man Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and that's the fact that ever since the day he won the election, he loved information, he loved information gathering, paperwork, data, everything is already on ground. He already knew what to work with, and we can only pray for him. He has what it takes, he has the capacity. And also let us say that peradventure some of our brothers who are involved in criminalities are listening to us. It is going to be a different ballgame in entirety, and I advise that make it a point, change your ways. Majority of you got involved not because you wanted to, but sometimes when you are not engaged, you can be involved in anything that will bring. We see our people acting like who is that person that is happy to be called a thug? No, but some of them have gone to school too, and so that's. I want the administration to give a serious consideration to job, create an enabling environment for people to work. You don't send us to school to come back and be roaming the streets. You have sent us to school to make it academically, come out and be engaged. We knew what it was like. Up till this moment, despite the soaring population of America and other countries, developed countries, they still have places for people to do something. We know what our brothers and sisters go through in their countries, but they are better off. We have seen bank managers resigning and moving to US, and when they get there, they go and they go to school to be trained as nurses. Eventually they start taking care of very aged people, and they are well paid. They do that for a year or two, and the individual that is a permanent secretary in any government setting that cannot even match what they have.
certainly.
And so the government must also learn from that. Social security must be allowed to work, and etc. And it's a very good statement. Yes, he's not coming to rule. He wants to consult. He's not a leader. He's not a leader. He wants to see himself as one of us, and wants to carry us along the way. He wants to give a direction to whatever that we have raised as issues and etc. And so that's a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Another paragraph here. In this vein, Mr. Aziz, may I offer a few comments regarding the election that brought us to this juncture? It was a hard-fought contest, and it was also fairly won. Since the advent of the Fourth Republic, Nigeria has not had an election of better quality. How true is that?
As true as the extent of the use of technology that lends a lot of credibility to the results of this election. There is no perfect system anywhere in the world, even in the United States. They
do go to court.
They do go to court. Even before going to court, during the election processes, there were always cries of irregularities. We all remember what happened during the
Joe
Bush,
Biden, Trump, then
Bush,
exactly.
Florida votes. How it took so long before those votes came in, and people started suggesting that there could be some underhand plays.
They went through
going
manual
on.
counting of.
Manual counting, that was what they eventually used, because the electronic or the electronic system was not going to work the way they wanted it. Has been tampered with. So the Nigerian election, the one that was held on the 25th of February this year 2023, was not a perfect election, but it was a far cry from previous elections held between 1999 and 2019.
Oh, because I was going to ask on are we comparing that with June 12, 1995?
Oh no, June 12. In the history of Nigeria, the June 12.
I think Mr. President was
yes, it was specific.
Yeah, since the advent of the Fourth Republic.
Exactly. Yes. So, give and take, the election, not a perfect one like I said earlier, but between this particular election and the previous ones, 1999. 2003, 2007, 11, 15, 2019. All of them were fraught with a number of irregularities, especially the 2003 election, where the winner, who was eventually pronounced as the president and sworn in, came out himself to say, 2007, came out himself to say,
the system that
produced me was fraught with so many irregularities.
Yes.
Of course, that was not enough for any court to say, okay, you are no longer the president. But it was a sincere statement from a sincere man. And it was expected that Nigeria should grow from there. And we have sincerely been growing. We've been growing. INEC has been doing something better at every other time. And that is the culmination of what we had in the 2023 election. That gave us something close to electronic voting, something close to what we have in the Western world, where results are almost genuine. You can almost vouch for the genuineness of results because you can see the transparency. Upload your results. Of course, some of these results have been tampered with, but that is the bone of contention the courts are going to settle. But the truth of the matter is that these problems will not arise if the players are sincere with themselves. I mean, INEC is not a machine that has been programmed to work in a particular way. It is operated by certain individuals. When these individuals are not good, INEC will not be good. But when they are good, when they decide to, that is another thing I want to appreciate in this speech. I'm sorry if I'm taking it from you already.
No problem.
President Tinubu said the task, to make Nigeria one is a task for everyone that must be done. He was quoting Yakubu Gowon after the Civil War. If we want Nigeria of our dream, the ideal Nigerian, according to the title of the speech, the Nigerian ideal, if that is what we want, we have to look inwards. Nigerians, irrespective of where we are, what we do, we must first and foremost look at what we are doing that is inimical to the progress of this country. What are those things that predisposes me to shortchanging this country before we begin to talk about what the country is not doing for us? Fine. The popular saying is, think of what you can do for your country and not of what your country can do for you. That will be easier to say than done. Nigerians should begin to think the same way. This is what most Americans have on their minds. They think first of what they can do for their country to make the country great, and not because they know it is automatic. When you do things for your country and your country is blossoming, you naturally will gain from it. When Nigerians pay taxes, when you do the right thing, the country will be richer. Fine, there will be people who want to steal this money, but there will be machineries in place that can curb these stealings to some extent, if not to a large extent. That is what is expected of the average Nigerian.
No, before you move from away from the electioneering issue.
We are still on it.
Yes, petroleum at the period of election, there was fuel scarcity.
Exactly.
At the period of election, there was no money circulation, and so almost everything that will bring about a good quality election was already in display. And so it is normal as politicians, they want to, because it is a way of continuing carrying their people along. Otherwise, when I see people going to, if a president will lose his base for the first time, tell me how many times and Obasanjo lost election in Abeokuta when he was the president. Tell me how many times the national chairman of a party lost his state. Tell me how many times a presidential aspirant lost his state. And when you put all these things in consideration,
even when Buhari was not winning nationally, he was winning Katsina massively, for that matter.
But he was president, he lost
in 2023.
Even the campaign DG of
Tinubu lost. So how more fair can an election be? It's up to us to really.
Okay, still in the direction of that election, President Tinubu talking about his opponents. They shall forever be my fellow compatriots, and I will treat them as such. They represent important constituencies and concerns that wisdom dare not ignore. You see the two major contenders, Vice President Atiku Abubakar and Mr. Peter Obi, coming together to work with Tinubu.
Without being immodest, when I look at the characters that contested alongside Ebola and Tinubu, I look at it as, I don't know how to measure. I don't know the basis for measuring. How can you compare these people?
No, you cannot wish away the fact that Atiku Abubakar was a vice president.
With due respect to you, he was a vice president to a president. Tinubu was a governor of a country within its own.
And a governor of a state.
And the blueprints he drew are still remains the best in this country. And the people he trained, the people he worked with, this is the first governor that will go out of a state, bring people into government
from everywhere.
Because I have to train you. When I finish training you, go back to your state and replicate what you have learned from our government. Those of them who handle it precisely the way he did. And those who will start changing and thinking they also have something upstairs to push across also did, and the result you are seeing today. And so when you look at President Buhari's administration, the core people that makes things work in that administration are people of Tinubu's school of politics. And so when you look at people like that, the question I reliably ask is, the former vice president worked with people. Where are those people? Chief Peter Obi worked with people. Where are they? Kwakwanso worked with people. Where are they? It is the people you work with, the quality of people you bring into governance sometimes goes a long way. Tinubu already knew where he was going ever since he left office, and that's why he spread his tentacles not within the southwest alone, but to the north. We saw his northern senator who told us how he became a senator through a Tinubu sponsorship. And you have somebody who sits somewhere and just wake up in a day and say, I want to be president. Is that the way to be president? Tinubu is a core politician. He's someone that knows what it takes to be involved in politics. And so if anybody comes in, I can safely say that I am not his fan. But when it comes to the issue of politics, let everybody know that he has climbed through the ladder. He has led. He was always part and parcel of everything MK Abiola did before he died. When Abacha invited them, that we felt that they would just be arrested and be kept in Kenya, he was there with them. Let us come up with what are these individuals contributed to political space in Nigeria. Chief Atiku Abubakar, Chief Peter Obi, Kwakwanso, Showore, and all of them. Let them come and tell us what they contributed about the struggle to even ushered in the Fourth Republic.
Exactly.
Majority of people who have benefited were not people whom we saw during the struggle. I remember when Chief M.K. Abiola died, I was a very young, a fairly young boy, but I was there. He was buried right in my presence. And we saw the effort this individual took. So if anybody is coming, if Tinubu was not contesting, anybody would have the floor to say whatever they want to say.
There is a question you have not answered. Did you see the two, Peter Obi and former Vice President Abubakar, coming to work with Tinubu for a greater Nigeria?
I cannot talk of Peter Obi, but I can talk of Atiku Abubakar. Okay, because this is an individual Tinubu has given a platform before. This is an individual with whom they have been together. Okay. They came from Yaradua School of Politics and etc. And so they have been together. But I mean, Chief Peter Obi, I don't know. Probably some people are overrating him, and he's also seeing himself in the stead of somebody who can stand shoulder to shoulder with a Tinubu. And so I don't know, but I believe that Atiku Abubakar has no issues at all.
Okay, for me, political coloration has faded away. All I see are Nigerians in US, in UK. The moment elections are held and done with, political parties go to slumber. All we hear is US, UK, Joe Biden and what of the other. But in Africa, the moment you mention the president, what comes to people's mind is political party. But look at this statement by Tinubu. Political coloration has faded away. All I see are Nigerians. So he is talking in the direction of government of national unity. Would that be possible with some people who will say we worked for the party, we are the party? You can't bring in people from other political parties, people who worked against us, and you are not be talking of government of national unity. Do you see political parties fading away the next 4 years?
It's one of those things that is killing our politics in Nigeria. Until such a time that we don't lay emphasis on this person work for me and he must be appointed. Get the best brains that can move your state or country forward. I don't go in tune with that at all. That because he worked for me, he must be compensated. Must you compensate people with other people's lives? Somebody who do not have what it takes, you want to place him in office? You want to place his name in office so that the lives of the citizens will be in danger just because you work with him? I don't think that we should continue in that state. And I want, Chief Bola Ahmed Tinubu to look beyond APC. Even if somebody has a character in the ABGA, if he has character in any party, he should be brought on board, because Nigeria today is a nation that is in need of best brains. We have all, but at the end of the day we benefit nothing. And so it is one of the best. It happens everywhere. It happens everywhere, not even in the States. They know you have the capacity, but because you are not part of them, they won't bring you in. And anybody who wants to contest and be in an office also has some things off his sleeves. And so that's why I would appreciate Mr. President if he can extend his hand of friendship to all the people, other people, even including Shore. Come up with your programs. Let us see what you have. How can it help Nigerians and etc. And we should stay away from seeing people as political parties instead of seeing them as our leaders. Okay. Somebody today, Excellency Governor Demola Adeleke is a governor in Osun State. Let everybody see him as a governor of Osun. Instead of PDP, he's a PDP person and he's an APC person. I think we should graduate from that. We have not, we are still learning. Is that you brought an American example. Every American is an American. Exactly. Before elections, they go separate ways. After elections, they all come back together. And that is what we need in this part of the world. We have not gotten there in that state.
Mr. Aziz, I think former President Obasanjo actually wanted to do that in 1999 when he brought in the late Chief Bola Ige from ADAPP as Minister of Mines and Power before he was deployed in the Ministry of Justice. Will Tinubu do that effectively?
Perfectly, I believe he can, because
as people think he did in Lagos.
Yes, in actual fact, there are people now in APC who came from PDP and they are very close to him. There are people who are still in PDP who are very close to Tinubu. And these people, when they are seen as people who can, who has something to offer, I'm very sure it will not be difficult for the government or for the president himself to invite them over and tap from their wealth of knowledge to the advantage of the country. However, quickly, what I feel has been inhibiting that particular action is the fact that Nigerians play politics of bitterness. During the electioneering campaign, political opponents run one another down. They make it seem as if you are my enemy and you are my enemy for life. And so it's the same thing is sent down to the supporters of the political parties, to the extent that it will become difficult for the person to begin to think, okay, maybe it could be useful to our party, despite that he is from the opposition. Because the way he played his politics, it was like what Yorubas call pata pata la foju. It is either a do or die affair. It is either my party wins or we destroy everything. And you can see that in their utterances in the media, on the social media, and at different fora. They make it seem as if it is war, and this is war. I mean, thank God we now have decreased violence during elections, decreased to a large extent because of the presence of military forces at polling stations or close to the polling booths and all that. These politicians make it seem as if it is a war. Today we are going to war with our opponents. So when you think of inviting them, your opponents will be like somebody who was all out to destroy you, to kill you, who said all manners of things about you. Why should you invite him to come and work for you? That is what has made it difficult for Nigerians to come to terms with opposition members working for a government. It is a very beautiful idea. It allows for a robust system where everybody contributes something to for the progress of the country. But it has not really worked because of that particular issue of the way Nigerians and Nigerian politicians play their politics.
Yes, finally we have 5 more minutes now coming from Tayo Tijani. 2 or 3 minutes. Listen to this. The South must not only seek good for itself, but must understand that its interests are served when good comes to the North. The North must see the South likewise.
Yes, it still boils down to talking about unity. Still want us to see ourselves as one. We want us to see Nigeria first, then every other thing follows. And so I also joined. I had my voice to raise that Nigeria belongs to all, and the greatest of Nigeria is of importance to all of us. And politicians should play politics without looking into the direction of our Nekonla Wambe. We are every other person is involved, and
Go ahead.
the roles some other people play are even far greater than what the politicians play. And but the only thing is that they have the opportunity of occupying offices. Sometimes most of them uses those such offices even for not for a positive act. Yeah. So let us we Nigerians must come together, and we must also pray for the greatest of this nation. Like I said in one of my radio programs, the Americans will wake up and say God bless America, and I also wake up today or anytime to say God bless Nigeria.
Okay, in 2 minutes, Mr. Akim Aziz, listen to this. In our administration, women and youth will feature prominently.
It is about time we focus more on this category of people. The women, the youth. The future of every country, or any entity for that matter, even a family, the future belongs to the younger generations. And if you do not give them the chance to showcase what they have to offer, then you are killing the future. So it is about time more chances are given to Nigerian youths. More opportunities are given to Nigerian women, especially in areas where they are best suited for. Give them this chance, let them use their inborn ingenuity to blossom and to make sure that things work perfectly as much as possible for the country and for the people of the country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akeem Ademola Aziz, for being my guest this morning on Political Update.
Thank you so much.
Comrade Fatai Tijani, I really appreciate you. Well, viewers at home, you have listened to the two gentlemen as political commentators, social affairs analysts. They have spoken to the President Tinubu's inaugural speech, and I'm very sure very many of you will agree with the analysis of the speech. But the bottom line is, we don't have another country we will call ours but Nigeria. President Tinubu cannot do it alone. Governor Ademola Adeleke of Osun State cannot do it alone. Let us all see Nigeria as our own project, and let us all come together to uplift the nation. When the nation goes up, every one of us is going up. But when the nation comes down, we are crashing. But Nigeria will not crash, we will not crash. Oluwatoyin Yusuf is my name. Political Update has been the program. Thursday next week is another time on the program with another topic. Stay tuned to Osbc and enjoy the rest of the day. Good morning.